Hi, and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads. Today we are continuing in our story, Zoo, by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. Today we will be starting in Book 2, Chapter 22. And in the last chapter, let's see, a lot happened in the last chapter. Abraham got bitten in the neck by a lion. Oz was able to get him away, killed the lion, blah, 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 got him into the Jeep or Land Rover, whatever they're riding in. Oz is under the steering wheel, pushing the gas pedal with his hand. They go backwards like crazy, crazy, crazy. The car goes airborne and they land. And that's where it stopped. So we are continuing in Zoo, Book 2, Chapter 22. Abe and I both went sailing out of the rover as it smashed backward into the riverbank, a good 10 feet below the sandy ridge. My body whooped into the muddy shore, and the truck beside me tipped onto its side with a groan and a decisive crunch of metal, plastic, and glass. I staggered to my feet, slapped mud from my face, and checked myself for injuries. I could feel bruises galore blooming all over my body, but nothing worse. The truck was still running, its engine panting, its back end submerged in muddy water. One sideways back wheel spun uselessly in the silt, stirring the muddy water. Abe was in bad shape, as in probably dead. One of his legs was pinned beneath the sideways rover, and his head was all wrong, almost perpendicular to his body. It looked like his neck had been broken in the crash. He wasn't breathing. I checked his pulse and wasn't surprised to find that he had none. Then I glanced up at the edge of the riverbank shelf we'd just been flung from. The heads of lions peered over it. A moment later, they were spilling over its edge. I backpedaled into the shallows of the river. There was one lion in particular, huge, bigger than the others, with red dish mane and one eye. Oh, yeah, we heard about him already, right? The one had it in for me. He came right for me. I turned and dove deep into the river, kicking as hard as I could. I swam as far out into the slow-moving, muddy current as possible. This was a river in a time of drought. The water wasn't cold and it wasn't deep. It was warm, shallow, and dirty. I stood on my tiptoes in the middle of the river, and the water line was just below my head. I shook my hair, blinked water out of my eyes, and spat, watched the shoreline. Abe's body was surrounded by 6 or 7 lions, their manes rustling against each other. They pawed and picked at him as less majestic animals would do. But the other one, the big lion, strode past the sideways rover and dove into the water after me, panting like mad as he paddled in my direction. I thought I was safe, but no. Lions hated water. They're not good swimmers. Their dense, muscular bodies aren't built for it. They'll swim if necessary to ford a river during the rainy season, for instance. But a lion, to chase prey into water, is pretty much unheard of. I turned again and headed toward a sandy spit of land in the middle of the river. 10 paces from the shore of the islet, I saw a long black box bobbing in the water, drifting like a chunk of wood in the lazy current. Flotsam from the overturned rover upstream. I splashed toward it, thinking I could maybe use it as a makeshift life preserver. It was a life preserver, in fact, one of the gun cases Abe had brought. I snatched it from the water and slogged for the shore. Stumbling, hurt, tired, with the gun case under my arm, I fought my way toward the reedy islet and felt the embankment rise under my heavy feet. I had no plan. I was beyond thinking. Ashore, I fell to my knees in the sucking, reedy mud like a sinner in church, plopped the clasps, thwack, thwack, and retrieved a flat black bolt-action Mauser 98, a truly badass piece of machinery that had a barrel gauge like a plumbing pipe. What had Abraham said? I thought as I slung the bandolier over my shoulder and filled the magazine to its limit. Better to have it and not need it. Walking slowly backwards onto the islet, I took aim at the giant cat that was paddling toward me in the river like a dog. He was mere feet away, emerging from the river, shaking off, flinging 1,000 twinkling beads of water from his mane. I squared up the rifle, aimed between his eyes, and squeezed the trigger. The gun butt rocketed against my shoulder, and the lion went down before me like a sack of potatoes, tumbling in a sopping heap into the river mud. PETA, forgive me. It was a beautiful creature, but it was also very big, beautiful creature that was trying to kill me. I turned my eyes back to the riverbank. I watched in disbelief as the lions loosed Abe's corpse from underneath the truck and hauled him back up the steep, sandy embankment. Okay, chapter 23. I sat for a long time on the shore of the river island, staring at the spot on the opposite riverbank where the lions had carried off Abe's body. I didn't think they would come back for me, but I kept the rifle in my lap with the safety off as I sat on the muddy inlet, reflecting on what had just happened, caught my breath, and collected my wits. Beside me, the lion I'd just killed lay on his side, sinking into the loose mud. His back legs in the river, tail floating, blood darkening the grass and eddying the brown water. Time to assess the situation. Okay, Oz, here's the 411. I don't know if you guys know 411 is information number you dial for information. Okay, here's the 411. You're lost and alone in the African bush without any supplies. This is a situation that needs to be addressed quickly. But every time I tried to start figuring out what to do next, my mind would wander. I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened, understandably so. The more I thought about it, the less it made sense. Lions are textbook examples of social mammals. Their pride structure, especially when it comes to group hunting, is one of the best known and most well-documented social organizations in zoology. Lions live in prides, and female lions do the hunting. Nomad male lions will hunt alone, but male lions never hunt together in groups. Except now, all that was out the window. I'd never even heard of mass male group hunting in lions before, let alone witnessed it. Also, why were these lions carrying off their kills? And why no females? Female lions are better at hunting anyway. That's one reason why they do most of it for the pride. Their lighter, more agile bodies are better built for it. Where the hell were the girls? I hadn't seen a lioness all day. Such bizarre behavior in these lions wasn't just curious, it was mind-blowing. These lions were doing things that lions just did not do. What I'd just seen contradicted everything I knew about the behavior of this apex predator. Why? This is to say nothing of the fact that lions are almost never actually harmful to humans. What's the point in hunting a human? We don't have a lot of meat on us. The way those lions had come after us, it was as if it were personal. I knelt and cupped some river water in my palm, splashed my face. I would have to save my confusion for a time when I was in a more comfortable position. For now, I had to snap out of it. Ponder later. I needed to do something to fix my current predicament. Stat. Shifting the rifle in my lap, I patted a rectangular lump in the pocket of my wet khakis. It was my iPhone, which I'd jailbroken the day before so it would work in Africa. Ha ha. I shook it off. Bubbles wobbled under the screen and water dribbled from the battery compartment. So much for calling for help. In any case, I wouldn't have gotten coverage out in the remote African bush. Sure as hell not with AT&T. Sorry, guys. I chucked the now useless chunk of sleek apple design over my shoulder and saw two huge gray lumps the size of oil tanks float past me in the river. I stilled as the two river hippos swam past. Hippos are herbivores, of course, but they're enormous and aggressively territorial animals. They'll kill without hesitation when they feel their territory is being invaded. They're actually some of the most dangerous animals you can encounter around here. I held my breath until the two malevolent tugboats disappeared around the bend in the channel. Chapter 24. I held the rifle and the bullets high in one hand to keep them dry and waded back into the river. I emerged beside, he's going back. I emerged beside the sideways Land Rover with my eyes on the rim of the riverbank where I'd last seen the lions. All I had to call a plan was this: get back to the safari camp where Abe and I had landed, figure something out from there. Brilliant, wasn't it? I searched the crashed truck for my things. I'd left my bigger bag back at the camp and had taken a small canvas backpack with me. There it was, one strap stuck on the busted gear shift. I disentangled it and shouldered the pack. As I gave the truck another once-over, I spotted something curious in the back seat. On the ground was a little pinpoint of glowing red light. I knelt in the silt and retrieved my Sony camcorder. I'd forgotten about it. I mean, I had a lot on my plate for the last hour or so. The thing was splattered with mud and the lens was scratched half to hell, but not only was it still working, it was still on. I stopped the recording, rewound it, and watched the footage on the view screen. After the crash, the camera had lain on its side in the mud and had accidentally filmed the rest of the attack. No, it hadn't been a nightmare. Lions filled the screens. Manes flared and eyes burning as they swarmed the rover. It was a mess of snouts and teeth, paws. Thing was, adversity aside, Abe's death aside, I had actually done it. I'd gotten what I came to Africa for. Here was video evidence of inexplicable, hyper-aggressive, apparent animal behavior. The footage was incendiary. This footage had the power to change the conversation. This was a cute story to tell at a Molotov cocktail party. The scientific community wouldn't be able to wrap their minds around this footage or be able to explain it. It wouldn't be just the scientists either, I thought. My gears were turning in double time now. The world would have to listen. They would have to start realizing that some sort of widespread environmental disaster was already underway. Your first job now, Oz? Survive long enough to get this thing back to civilization. That means not getting eaten. That means getting the hell out of here nowish. I powered off the camera and zipped it up in the backpack. I checked the clip in the Mauser. 4 rounds left. Bad news. It didn't matter. I'd have to figure it out. This was bigger than me. I needed to make it out of here with this tape so the world would know what was happening. Tin hut, Oz, let's rock. I glanced up at the sky. Vultures were dropping to earth from their GYRES gyres? High up in the sky, I assume. Back on the river islet, where the dead lion lay, a peppering of flies already tickled the carcass, the sound of their wings reverberating in the air. A couple of marabou storks pranced daintily around the lion, piercing its flesh with their beaks now and then. They jostled for real estate with a smattering of African white-backed vultures. Speckles of blood flew as their rosy, wrinkled heads bobbed up and down to the beat of the band, their beaks ripping delicate threads of tissue from the body and catching them in their throats. Ah, the circle of life. The rivers flow into the sea, and yet the sea is never full, and all that. Death becomes a meal ticket. Death was the modus operandi out here in the African bush. Now, if I could only avoid becoming part of this regularly scheduled programming, I had to get back to humanity with an important message. Wow. Okay. This is kind of exciting. Some of it's kind of gory, but it's interesting. I mean, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure, way back at home, the chimpanzee, which is a male, and the supervisor's mother, I don't know. I think that might be an ugly situation when he gets back. We'll see. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.